Hello, good morning. I was just notified about an hour or so ago that there is someone trying to get my channel erased and my videos taken down because of hashtag his side too. And not only were they on Twitter trying to convey this let's get Molly Golightly's channel down because she doesn't agree with what I'm doing. I think that it's important to actually describe and give a reason as to why I felt there was a need to come up with the hashtag his side too. And it's a hashtag I came up with over a week ago. I don't get anything for it. I personally, if you want to know the truth, two of the stories that made headlines for Me Too involved relationships that I have had with an accuser and someone of high profile that was accused. So after my disgust with the accuser and the accusee and knowing that they were false rape allegations, it was very uncomfortable, especially being the friend of someone that would accuse someone else of something like that. And of course, knowing the accused, and I really felt a need to help these people out. And I didn't want to stay shut, nor did I want to go to the press where they could spin my words and make it into something that could be more constructive and beneficial of their side. So what I did is I kind of put something together to explain what his side too represents, what it means to me. And I'm hoping that when I read it to you that you will understand a little more and get a better perspective. I'm hoping that I'm talking to people that are watching right now that have common sense, people that are fair, people that are open-minded. A little bit of intelligence helps, but I'm not going to push it. But it does involve quite a few people, and it's very serious, and it's not to be made a joke of. So this is what I wrote, and I really hope that you will get a better understanding of why his side too exists. The Me Too movement has been a victim's crusade against sexual harassment and sexual assault in the workplace and society at large. It has attempted to spark a debate, but unlike traditional debates with two opposing sides with legitimate viewpoints, there is no opposition in society that applauds or even tolerates sexual assault in any form. The Me Too movement started as a compilation of both public and anonymous personal anecdotes of women telling their experiences of harassment and assault and utilizing social media as their platform. Undoubtedly, the sharing of their personal traumas have been therapeutic for the many women that voiced various forms of abuse that they had endured. The United States Bureau of Justice Statistics estimates that only 15% to 35% of sexual assaults are reported to the police. This study suggests that society has normalized the suppression of the reporting of sexual assaults. Potentially, this is because the victim justifies his or her victimhood or believes that the justice system will be non-responsive or unwilling to believe the veracity of their claims. When the reporting of sexual assaults becomes the norm, the message is conveyed to not only victims that encourages them to report the abuse, but another message is also sent to would-be perpetrators that our society will not tolerate their behavior and take action against it. The Me Too movement has origins from radical feminists such as Marilyn French, who promulgated notions that the oppression of women was central to the patriarchal social order, and even that of men are rapists. Basically, that all men are rapists, yeah. The movement has exhibited a mob mentality by suppressing legitimate questions about the rights of due process that our social fabric and societal values also embrace. Purveyors of the movement have demanded that women who claim to be victims of abuse be reflexively believed, and be doing so risk ramblings on the rights of due process that are entitled to enjoy. The movement artfully seized the universal position that rape is bad, and that applied reductionist logic to align anyone who suggests that men are accused of sexual misconduct should receive due process, must then be on the side that believes that rape is good. It is possible and probable that rational people can agree both that rape is bad and that men and women who are accused deserve due process. 2010 study from the Violence Against Women Journal presented the synopsis of false rape allegations found that up to 10% of claims of rape are patently false. That number may seem insignificant, but if you, your husband, or your son become part of that 10%, then I would argue that the number would no longer seem so insignificant. Currently, women that make false accusations do not receive any recourse from law enforcement, while Crystal Magnum, who made false rape allegations against the Duke lacrosse team in 2006 that also led to the disbarment of former district attorney Mike Nafong, she is now incarcerated after being convicted of attempted murder. I mean, that just tells you, the ilk of these types of accusers. Karma comes around. I didn't write that in there, but I'm just throwing that in. Women do not have an external deterrent from making false allegations. Additionally, one of the potential unintended consequences of the Me Too movement may be to embolden some women to make false allegations of either assault or harassment in order to meet their personal agendas. Making allegations is simplified when the accuser knows that she will be believed without the presentation of any legitimate evidence. Arguably high-profile cases tied to the Me Too movement, including Louis C.K., Al Franklin, Matt Lauer, Roy Moore, Bill O'Reilly, actors Aziz Ansari, Scott Baio, Kevin Spacey, James Franco, Sean Hannity, and of course, the youngest member of the Backstreet Boys, Nick Carter. These others have been impactful, and each of these men have been branded with a scarlet letter that each will likely never overcome. At the same time, because of the nature of the allegations against these men fixed with the lack of evidence, none of these men are likely to face any criminal prosecution whatsoever, much less a conviction. Furthermore, it should be a troubling trend when what little support that accused men receive is always from political or media figures that share the same ideological leanings, and coincidentally their most voracious critics happen to also oppose their political worldviews. In this sense, Me Too has partially co-opted by both political and media institutions as a blunt force instrument to use against their ideological adversaries. It is all too easy to apply tunnel vision to the high-profile male celebrities that have been swept up by the Me Too movement. As stated earlier, it is unlikely that any of these men will face criminal prosecution. And because of their status and wealth, they all have been in effect sent to early retirements. It's done for them. However, what about all the regular, everyday 9-to-5 men who will also be emblazoned with the scarlet letter of the Me Too mob? Essentially, without clear opposition to target, the movement has by default targeted all men because central to the mob mentality has been the premise that all women making claims of harassment assault must go unquestioned, and that the alleged perpetrator will be swiftly and permanently punished and then discarded. While it will be a positive step for both of the public and private sectors to eliminate men whose behavior is truly abusive towards women, what about the men that innocently ask coworkers out on dates and are simply rebuked? What about men who have dated coworkers and after their relationship has ran its course, the woman files a complaint with Human Resources? Any legitimate sexual abuse constitutes a grave injustice. But the answer to one injustice should not be to replace it with another injustice. Who would want to live in a world populated by people that are petrified by the thought of enjoying their time together, getting to know each other? In the end, I predict that the world that the Me Too movement is creating is one where women will be increasingly unhappy. And I've been saying this. Men that would have complimented the extra effort that they put into their makeup or their hair will look past them. Men that would have shared their lives with and have cherished them will now be oblivious to them as to not risk their own careers. And the biggest tragedy of all will be that very few of these women will ever understand why. That, my friend, is what his side 2 is, and that's what it represents. It's not going against Me Too. I am not anti-feminist. I am not a victim blamer. I am not rape shaming, slut shaming. I am none of those things. But what had gotten my attention is the fact that I knew someone closely that was accused of rape. And there's far too much evidence that shows that he did not do this. And now, to have a friend accuse a celebrity of this when I already know the story for all these years is a little tough. If you would have told me a year ago I would be making videos on this, I would have told you you were absolutely crazy. But I am. And I do hope that if there are any men that are affected by this, that I'm doing this to help you. And to the women out there, I really hope that you don't have it in you to hold a grudge, to not be offended by any type of rejection, that you have to resort to being this desperate and just going this low for revenge. Karma is a bitch, and what's right is right. And I am not an angel. Definitely not. I'm not an angel. I'm not perfect. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I love men. I love women too. But I like facts. I'm a big fan of facts, and I'm a big fan of the truth. And I think hurting people because you have certain intentions is very, very wrong. And this needs to stop. And if this helps a couple of people, if this knocks some sense into a couple of people, then I'm happy.